So Seattle University does not want to be one of those schools that sees an outbreak. So they've put in place some measures that they're hoping will keep students safe. So far in the month of August, they've had 4 reported cases between students and faculty, but most of those have been off campus. But move-in day is today. There's a whole list of things that students need to do both before they get here and when they get here. A big change is each dorm is going to be single occupancy. So typically they have about 2,000 kids on campus. This year that number will be cut in half. Now most of the learning is going to be happening virtually, but they will have some in-person classes. Students are being assigned a day and a time to move in between today and September 4th. Each student is required to submit a negative coronavirus test taken no more than 10 days before move-in, and then once on campus and once moved in, things are also going to look very different. Campus lounges, study rooms, and computer labs will all be closed, and everyone is required to wear a mask even when they can socially distance. Now, anyone arriving on campus will also need to complete a daily health screening, that is visitors, faculty, staff, and that can be done online. Now, as you mentioned, Michelle, there are about 36 states that have reported some kind of outbreak on a college campus, the largest being over at the University of Alabama, where they have more than 1,000 students who have tested positive. To put that into perspective, that is more than the total number of students that will be moving into Seattle U this week. But Seattle U, they are adopting a campaign. It's called Be Kind, Keep Each Other in Mind. And the goal of this campaign is to remind the students, faculty, and staff that it's part of their responsibility to keep each other safe and healthy. Live in Seattle, Callie Greenberg, King 5 News.